What's up, my brothers? How y'all doing? This is Pastor Keith, and welcome to another edition of iDad, where fathers are encouraged and empowered to impact the next generation. Well, I'm excited again to bring you another hour-packed edition. Man, this stuff is so exciting. I am so excited each week to come bring you issues, man, that I know that are affecting us as dads. And because of that, man, I want to see us grow, and I want to see us make it as fathers, because we have greatness on the inside of us, and we are responsible for raising great seed. So today I want to talk to you about raising hell when your kids act opposite of your parenting. Now, I'm trying to tell you, brother, if you stay in this thing long enough, there gonna be times where your kids do not display in their behavior the same kind of values and training that you are giving them at home. I'm telling you, man, it happens all the time. If you ever had a kid to act out, in public, if you ever had your kid to, at the wrong time display how they dislike what you said or what you told them to do as a dad, you know that feeling that you get, man. And so today I want to talk to you about what happens during those times. Listen to this here. As your kids get older, they're going to display feelings that show that they are in direct opposition to the way you're trying to parent them. There are going to be times, man, when you see that defiant behavior, it's going to inadvertently become a subtle tension that you experience when you're trying to relate to your kids. And that subtle tension that you experience is a direct opposition to the values that you're trying to put in them and to the training that you're trying to offer them so that they can become the best person they can be. And when you start to see that, what happens is that we start to avoid it. You know why? Because it's so subtle. It's so subtle that we try to avoid it, and sometimes we don't deal with it. And that subtlety, as long as we allow it to stay there, becomes an opposing force that creates hellish behavior in your kids. I'm telling you, that defiant attitude becomes a hellish behavior because it has an environment to grow in, because you have been avoiding the subtle tensions that is in direct opposition to your parents. You better listen to what I'm saying, because I'm telling you, sometimes your kids play on that. Sometimes they realize that subtle tension is there, and because sometimes maybe you tired, maybe you don't feel like dealing with it, maybe you feel like, hey, that was just one time, 2 times, maybe even 3 times. It's not permanent. Brother, I want you to pay attention, because if you let it grow, it will continue to fester, and that hellish attitude, man, will come back to bite you every single time. And why do I call it hellish? I call it hellish because it don't come from God. Those defiant attitudes are not godly. Those defiant attitudes come from hell, man, and you have to get rid of that stuff as soon as you can. So I'm telling you today that as dads, we have to be vigilant in confronting anything that opposes our training. That's good stuff. And so I want you to help you. I want to help you with this, man, for real. So I had this issue that happened with my younger daughter, and one of the reasons why we at the school today is because my middle daughter is a freshman in high school. I am so proud of her. It seemed like just yesterday we was homeschooling little girl and trying to teach her ABC. Now she a freshman in high school. She does so well, man, as a flutist that she made the marching band as a freshman. She is so good that she was able to make the marching band, and this marching band competes all over the state. I'm so proud of her for that. Well, because they compete so much, they travel a lot. And one thing I'm big on is I'm big on safety, especially as it relates to my daughters. I need to make sure I have information at all times, and they'll tell you all the time. I tell them I need information, I need details. Sometimes they think I'm going overboard with it, but I need that information. And because of that, I got them a cell phone so they can stay in contact with me. So I told my youngest daughter, listen, I'm cool with you traveling. I'm glad you made the band. I'm glad you got friends, and I'm glad you traveling and all that type stuff like that. That's real good. But I need for you to keep in contact with your dad via cell phone. Whether you text me or whether you call me, I need information. I need to know where you at. I need to know if you guys are on the way back home, especially if it's gonna be late, because I'm all about your safety. But guess what? Baby girl decides, she not gonna give me all that information. Baby girl decides she's gonna have a defiant attitude about my request to get the information I need to make sure her safety is intact. And so listen, she began to travel, and we had one incident where she didn't call. We had one incident where she didn't text and didn't give me all the information that I needed. Okay, we dealt with that, we moved on. However, I kept responding and kept asking her. I said, listen, make sure I know when you guys are going out, because it seemed like they went out every weekend. And that's cool with me. I'm glad for her to go out and see different kids and go out and compete and go out and play her flute, because that's something that she loves. However, this underlying tension, right, between both of us, with me wanting the information and with her feeling reluctant to give it to me, started to grow and started to build. And every time we would talk about band and every time we would talk about competitions, we could feel that tension. Y'all know what I'm talking about, because y'all have same issues. There's certain issues in your household where soon as you start talking about it, soon subjects come up around it, you start feeling that tension, don't you? Yeah, I know you do. And that tension, man, is a direct resistance to your parenting. That's why it's so hellish, and that's why we got to get rid of it. However, she continued not to give me the information. So one particular time, I'll never forget this one. One particular time, she came home from a competition after midnight. Good gosh, have mercy. My daughter is 14, and at the time she was 13. She came home after midnight from a competition, man. Boy, I was hot as fire. I was furious. And the issue was because really, I sat there patiently and was waiting for the phone calls. I got one text and I got one phone call, and that one phone call was less than 10 minutes before she was supposed to come back to the school for me to pick her up. Boy, I'm telling you what, I was about to burn the carpet up. I was so mad. So listen, that subtlety, man, and that tension that I felt all that time leading up into this moment, I didn't confront. And because I didn't confront, it was a breeding ground. It turned into hellish behavior, defiant attitude that said to my daughter that just because dad wants to have this information don't mean I got to get it to him. Because the truth of the matter is, our kids want to have control over their life and have control over the things that they're doing. So her reluctance to keep me involved in her extracurricular activities became a subtle issue that was underlying our relationship and causing it to be destroyed and to be destructive, because she wanted her way. I'm telling you, man. So you raising up hell in your home, because that's a hellish mindset. Whenever your kids oppose the thing that you're trying to help them become better in, it's a hellish mindset. It's a defiant mindset, and we have to get rid of it as dads. We have to make sure that we don't allow that thing to incubate and we sitting here raising up hell in our home. So I'm gonna tell you what happened. Boy, when she came home, I went all in for 20 minutes. I'm trying to tell you, I was so upset. And this time, I had my wife sit in on it, because you know, sometimes with girls, they so slick. They'll talk to you about all this talk, man, and give you all this information and evade all these issues. So I had my wife sit in on it so she can decipher all them codes, you know, the kids speak in, try to throw me off. Because sometimes they get me like that, but I ain't let them get me the night. You know, that night, I made sure I had my wife sit in on that thing so she can hear all the stuff she was saying. So listen, I learned something great from that. And I want to share with you 3 principles, man, from that situation that I know is going to help you. Here's the principle. Principle number 1 is this: that unresolved defiance, man, destroys relationships. Man, it destroys relationships when you don't resolve that defiance. Because a great man once told me that rules without relationship breeds rebellion. So you have to make sure that you build a relationship with your kids, man, so that when you give them rules, man, they don't rebel against them, because they understand them, because they understand you. You guys have been communicating and sharing. You guys been working through issues. You guys been growing with each other. So we have to make sure, man, that we don't give these rules and then they rebel against them because we don't have no relationship with them, man. Because unresolved defiance always destroys a relationship. All right? Principle number 2: you cannot resolve what you don't confront. I'm telling you, you cannot resolve it if you don't confront it. If you see that subtle tension, man, that's occurring in your relationships with your kids, you have to stop right there and deal with it. Don't do like I did and let it fester and let it continue and let it grow. And then before you know it, when you go to confront them, it's a big issue because they thinking in their mind, I can do it because you ain't said nothing about it. You ain't said nothing up until this point. What you coming in my face now for? Just because you mad now, all of a sudden you got something to say. And I'm telling you, if you don't think your kids think like that, you got another thing coming. I got teenagers, bro, and I'm telling you right now, that's what's going on in their head. And so we have to confront it. We have to make sure before the thing blow up to be able to communicate to them very clearly and very specifically what your expectations are. And then, as I said before, you got to follow up on what you inspect, my brother. Yes, sir. You got to inspect what you expect. And therefore, they can't come back to you later on. Well, I ain't know. Yes, you did too know, because we went over it when we know, and we went over it in times where you could understand where it wasn't no conversation and there wasn't no issue. All right, here it is, principle number 3. That's the third thing I want you to understand. Defiance is temporary when real change is the goal. Yes, sir. Defiance is temporary when real change is the goal. Because when your kids realize this, that you are going to be persistent because you are purposeful in your parenting, that they're going to have to deal with what it is that they feel towards you that opposes your parenting. They're going to have to resolve that thing. They're going to have to deal with it. They're going to have to come to grips to the truth, man. Because you have to make sure as a dad that your values and what you're trying to train them in is rooted in truth. Don't let it be rooted in just because I like it, so I want you to do it. No, sir. Let it be rooted in truth. Let it be rooted in the word, man. Let it be rooted in principles that will guide them, that are redeemable, that they can use even when they become adults, man. Yes, sir. And so I want you to understand that defiant behavior will change. They're going to grow out of that defiant behavior if you continue to communicate to them your expectations. It just don't go away because you wish it to go away, man. It just don't go away because you think because you ain't dealing with it, then all of a sudden maybe one day they'll get the light. Then maybe one day they'll grow out of it. No, sir. What I want you to understand, man, is it's going to be temporary because you are persistent, because you are purposeful, and you are intentional about trying to raise your kids in a way that's going to help them achieve their greatest potential. So this Pastor Keith, man, I want you to remember these 3 things. Remember, man, that defiance, man, is temporary. Okay? Defiance is temporary if real change is the goal. You cannot change what you don't confront. You cannot change what you don't confront, man. It's real important that we make sure we confront the issues and make sure we deal with them, man, so that we don't have to go through these issues of having arguments and having fights and having disagreements, and you not talking to them, they not talking to you, then you having to go through trying to go be apologetic and you feeling like a wimp because now you got to go to your daughter, you got to go to your son and try to patch something up because you don't went off on them. You stop going off on these kids, man, because I'm telling you, the attitude that they have in their minds, man, are temporary because they're going to grow out of that thing. Yes, sir. They're going to grow out of it because you continue to build an environment in your home that's conducive for growth. Yes, sir. And when you do that, man, it causes them to mature. It causes them to face the issue because now you're holding them accountable for that defiant mess that they have going on in your head, in their head. So I want you to remember, man, stay true to the game. Make sure that you are staying focused on what it is you're trying to train your kids in, because I tell you this, raising hell is not an option. So it's Pastor Keith, man. I want you to stay encouraged. I want you to stay up, man, and know this, man. As long as you are attempting to parent your kids, man, with truth and with values that are redeemable, you can achieve raising kids, man, even in this culture that love you, that love God, and more importantly, love themselves. I bless you, man. Take care, and I'll see you next time.